Hey everyone,
Right.
welcome back to Pushing the Limits. Today I have a superstar, amazing man for you. He's laughing over there in the camera. Dr. Joe Dituri, welcome to the show. I'm really fascinated to be able to talk to you. Dr. Kirk Parsley, shout out to you for hooking me up with Joe. I really appreciate the connection. Another fascinating man. Joe, welcome. It's lovely to have you here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for the invite, Kirk.
Oh, it's going to be a fascinating conversation because your background and your story is quite a an amazing one. Were you always an overachiever?
No. So the God's honest truth is I finished lower middle third of my high school graduating class, and they were like, I went to go to college, and they were like, yeah, we think you did too poorly on the SAT to get into college. So
Really?
I almost had nothing left but to join the Navy. I mean, I'm sure I could have been a light bulb salesman, but so I joined the Navy. And from that point on, it was like, oh, you learn this way, not that way. We've been fucking that up all the Sorry, we've been messing that up.
That's fine.
All right.
So, did you have anything like dyslexia or any of your learning disabilities or anything like that, or was it just teenage boy stuff?
So I had what you would probably consider a learning disorder right now. I have congenital ocular albinism, which leads to very poor vision. Yep. So my vision is really poor. So as opposed to wearing the Coke bottle sized glasses in school, because kids beat up kids with glasses, I decided that was not going to happen. And I decided that I was just going to walk around like this. So when you walk around and you can't see the board, you don't do well in school. So there you go. And then I stopped and I got a piece of humble pie and I said, okay, I can do something different than this. And then I found something that interests me, right? So.
And that's part of the problem, with kids at school. And I think, a lot of kids fall through the cracks at school because we're teaching them stuff that they don't see any relevance in big classes and all of that sort of stuff. So, but then you went into the Navy. Was the Navy like something for you that just opened up your world? Because it does for a lot of kids who go into the military at all, sort of teaches them discipline and wakes them up, makes them into adults.
So the Navy gave me basically everything that I have right now came from the Navy. It's the, like my mother gave me the work ethic. Short of that, it was real easy because imagine you went to boot camp and they threw a trash can down the aisle at 5 o'clock in the morning and you've already been up for like 20 minutes. Wow. You're laying in bed, you're awake. Why? Because your mom made you get up at the butt crack of dawn, go do chores, go do all your crap. And then, when they said stand up straight, you stood up straight. Why? Because they would yell at you if you didn't. And if they did yell at you, then it's like, oh, you're just like my mom and dad. You do love me. Oh, this is great.
So you felt right at home.
It was super easy. I was like, they're yelling at me. Oh, they love me. This is something I want to be doing, So yeah, it's show up on time. If you can't be on time, be early, and then, do your damn job. And I was like, okay, this is pretty easy and straightforward. Now what? Like, that's it? That's all you got? And then it was like, well, you could be an officer and go to college. I'm like, wait, I can go to college? You're like, yeah, if you want to go to college at night. I'm like, I can do that. I went to college at night. And then it was like, oh yeah. Okay. You now know how to learn. Wow. Got it. So now I got my new learn method on, and then, I got a commissioning program. Then I got commissioned at the special operations community, and it's all downhill from there.
Let's dive into the special forces a little bit, because it's a fascinating world as well. So, you did go to college. What did you study in there at the beginning?
Computer science, because it was the easiest thing that I could get a really quick degree in. That's the God's honest truth. Really? I was one of these computer. So I was one of these computer like proteges when I was in high school, right? There was a whole sting in New York City over these companies that would hire these kids. We would write programs, and then they'd give us like $100 for writing the program, which is like everything in the world to a freaking teenage kid in New York.
Absolutely.
And they would sell them for a couple $100 a piece. So it's like, so they did this whole thing, and it was like, Yeah, a big story. But bottom line is computers were easy to me. They made logical sense, like
Right.
zeros, one, logic, left, right, got it, you know? So computer science was an easy thing for me to get a bachelor's in. And then, you know, I did that. And it's like, okay, I had 2 years and 9 months to get a 4-year degree.
Wow.
So they were like, ready, go. And I was like, well, okay.
Wow.
You know,
See, you must be pretty bloody bright to do that, because I look at a computer and I can't work out which end to open it on.
no, it's just different. It's a different way of thinking, right? It's just a different way of thinking. And now I look at, I'm talking to you on a Whammy HP that I couldn't do a damn thing on right now. I can barely open Windows, for Christ's sake. But you know, like the insides I can work, but that's about it. So.
Got you. And so you did that, and you sort of opened up your world, and then, you know, you realized you weren't dumb and you could do all this sort of stuff. And then you went into special forces. Now, everyone knows to go into special forces is not a walk in the park. What was that like for you?
So it was really interesting. So a minor distinction point, just to be very, very, very clear. Kirk was in special forces. I was in special operations. So minor difference in it. So that is diving, explosive ordnance disposal, and mine countermeasures. That's what I did.
Yep.
Nobody ever shot at me in anger. So I want to make sure I was not a Navy SEAL. I was a Navy Special Operations Officer, and my bent was diving and salvage. And I did a little bit of explosive ordnance disposal stuff, but not a lot. Yep. So that was mostly on the diving side of the house too. So bottom line being, it was not a walk in the park. It was physically very demanding, mentally very challenging. It's one of the hardest schools I'd ever been to. Yeah. And by this time I already had I had a bachelor's degree, and it was like, wow, this is pretty tough to do, you know? So yeah, but you work through that, and then mentally, physically challenging, and then you push down the road, you know?
No, but amazing.
You have a choice.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't get that far along, so you know. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your diving stuff, because you've done some extreme stuff in your life. You've gone to incredible depths. I heard on one of your interviews, what was it, 1,947 feet was your deepest dive or something, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, that's just insane. So, and you're an expert also in the area of hyperbarics, which I wanted to dive into a little bit today, because that's one of my favorite subjects as well, and I wanted to sort of ask you a whole lot of stuff. You know what you remind me of, and I hope this isn't an insult, but you know, like one of those dudes in the Clive Cussler novels. Do you know the Clive Cussler novels?
Oh, Clive Cussler, Dirk Pitt. Yeah.
You remind me of one of those characters.
Oh, thank you. I hope that's good.
In a good way.
Dirk is described as a handsome man, so I'm
exactly.
down with that.
A handsome man, very good in the sea, diving, crazy adventure.
Wait till you see the book that I'm writing. I just met with my publisher, and my editor is finishing up the edits. So hopefully in the next 2 months or so, we'll have the semi-final edit, and then publisher is going to go crazy. So awesome.
I can't wait to read it.
Yep. It's a factional book. It's fiction, but it's based upon fact.
Oh,
so we call it factional. So it'll be fun and interesting.
Oh wow, that does sound really interesting with your stories. I'm sure it'll be packed full of action. So can you tell us a little bit about diving? Like, how do you get to do sort of these extreme dives? And you've worked in some of the most extreme environments on Earth, with, you know, as far as the diving stuff's concerned. Tell us a little bit about, because for someone who's never been dived, like I've never dived except snorkeling, and so I have no concept of any of this sort of stuff. Tell us all about that.
So as a Navy diver, they basically don't train you to swim; they train you to walk on the bottom. So once we did that school, you get Navy dive school, which is 6 months long. For us, it was 6 months long. And then salvage officer school and all that other stuff that went with it. We learned how to salvage ships off the bottom of the ocean. Think Pearl Harbor, right? Pearl Harbor, a bunch of ships sink, you can bring them up, that kind of thing. Wow. So we learned how to do that kind of stuff. And then I realized that I learned how to walk on the bottom, and that I needed to learn how to dive. So I increased my civilian knowledge prior to going to Navy dive school, and then during Navy dive school, and then after Navy dive school. I was working on all my civilian knowledge. So I became a great diver from the perspective of all diving, because I made the opportunity to do it, right? It was one of these like, all right, I want to get better at my job and I wanted to be the best at my job. So I'd get in the water and I would be more functional, better at kicking, better at swimming, better at up current, better at down current, better at working underwater in general, because I wanted to be good at my craft. It was like, okay, you got to be good. Remember the work ethic that my mom beat me into, right? So, if you're not gonna bring it, bring your A game. Otherwise, stay home. So that's what I wound up doing, and it afforded me more opportunity to get into stuff. And then I started writing papers on it, and then I was impressing the upper up brass. And I was like, listen, what if we did it this way? What if we use this gas? What if we use this style of diving? Wow. What if we did this? What if we did that? We could change this. We could change for the better. And they were like, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, you're not so dumb as you look. I'm like, thanks. Appreciate it. So, and then before you know it, some guy called me in the middle of the night, one night where he was, and I happened to be on the East Coast, and he said, hey, listen, I'm the guy that's in charge of Deep Submergence Unit, the diving detachment. I would like you to relieve me. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, no, I have a payback tour. I just finished my master's degree in astronautical engineering, and I had to do a payback tour at the National Reconnaissance Office, and I was already slated with orders. Matter of fact, where I was at a place to look at going to the National Reconnaissance Office, right? Yep. So as I'm there, the guy called me. He said, no, we took care of all that. I want you to relieve me. You're going to be out here. I need you to be out here by mid-December. I'm like, okay. Why? Because he saw a couple papers that I wrote. He saw how much diving stuff I did. He saw that I was an expert in the field. And, he's like, I think you could do a good job here. And I'm like, all right, let's rock on.
Wow. And so you went there and where did that take you?
So I became the officer in charge of Deep Submergence Unit Diving Detachment. And that's where I met our illustrious friend, Kurt Parsley.
He's awesome.
He comes walking in with this seal pin on, right? But he's got doctor epaulets on. And I'm thinking to myself, damn it, Doc, I don't know him from a hole in the wall. I'm like, Doc, you can't just go to the store and buy any freaking device you want, put it on your thing. Oh, wait, look at the size of his quads. Like Quadzilla. I'm like, wait a minute. That guy's got broad shoulders. Oh, geez. Oh, he just might be here. Yeah, okay.
He is actually that plus that.
That plus that and a bag of chips to go along with it. So bottom line, so I went through that. I became a 1 atmosphere suit pilot. I did the transfer on pressure protocol. I did a lot of stuff there, including pressurized rescue module. And, we brought that into existence. And then when I was done with that tour, the Navy at U.S. Special Operations Command asked me to go build dry combat submersible at SOCOM in Tampa. I was like, okay, no problem. So I came back to Tampa, which is where I live now. And, I did about 4 years designing and building dry combat submersible from a program of record where the Admiral just said, hey, Aquanaut, get up to my office. Here's $22 million. Go build me dry combat submersible. Wow. And I'm like, yeah, but wait, I need more money. And he's like, Commander, which part of go build me dry combat submersible don't you understand? I'm like, yes, sir. Recognize this correct answer when told, right? So I just went on and I didn't know that I couldn't do it, so I just did it.
Wow, I love that.
You're breaking rules, and like the underlings of the Admiral were like, you're breaking rules, and I was like, okay, great. So here's what the Admiral told me. He said, look, you can break any rule that you want because I make rules. He said, you can't break any laws, but you can break all the rules that you want. And I was like, yes, sir.
Okay,
right. All right.
It's what you call delegation.
It's delegation. He's like, I want you to fix that, Joe. I'm like, yes, sir, I can fix that.
Wow. And so you took over this massive project and just did it somehow by bending and breaking a few of their obviously not so important rules.
And making our own rules. What we wound up doing was making what we called state rules for organization state rules for the American Bureau of Shipping. So we'd make our own rules to classify things and to certify something, though. It has to be doing this. It has to do that. It has to be able to do this, So we made those rules. And then all of a sudden now I think it's a $1.4 billion program of record. And I think we have 3 with 2 in build right now. So it's like, we're finally building them. Like one of the things that we did wrong as the United States of America is we decided to stop building rockets and we used a reusable spacecraft.
Mm-hmm.
What did that do? It screwed up our ability to make new rockets. So here we are using the same old rocket over and over and over and over and over, where we could have been redesigning and making a new one and keeping the energetic base alive and making sure that we had rocket experts in the United States. We don't have a rocket expert, man. We relied upon solid rocket boosters and a couple of quart nozzles that had been designed in 1975. Wow. So it's just like, so now here we are going, here we were going into space with something that, I had more computing power in my phone than it did on the space shuttle itself,
Yep. And so, so that's where they've gone wrong. And, have they, because you've gone and done.
In my opinion.
It's not so humble opinion, I'd say. The one that you actually know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so you went and also did a PhD. What did you do the PhD in? Because you didn't have enough sort of achievements on your belt.
So when I finished the Navy after 28 years, they offered me a great job doing almost the same thing that I was doing, only in civilian clothes. And they said, we'll let you grow your hair long. And I was like, I am done suckling off the government. I'm done.
Yep.
I want to do something totally different. So I sat around and I thought about a bunch of stuff. And then I wanted to write a paper. And I wanted to write a paper, and it started with the ketogenic diet. And because there's something called an epileptic seizure, and the epileptic seizure is somewhat similar to a central nervous system oxygen toxicity seizure. Mm-hmm. So we hypothesized back in the early early 2000s, that if you use a ketogenic diet, you can stave off this seizure activity on one side. I wonder if it'll work for hyperbaric oxygen.
Yeah.
So since I wanted to do that, I started to write a paper. And then I remember distinctly somebody was like, oh, well, you really can't submit this paper because you need to be a PhD. And I was like, what? Like, it's hard?
Yeah.
He was like, well, yeah, it's actually very hard. It's a lot of work. And I was like, now I know exactly what I'm going to do. And I know exactly why I'm going to do it.
Right.
So I was like, you realize that I have 28 years as a diving. Diving is my jam, right? Like this is my jam.
You know your shit. Yeah.
And I'm a commander in the Navy, and I was the special boat guy.
And it meant nothing. You had no PhD.
Jack nothing, right? So then I went back. So 5 years later, I got a PhD in biomedical engineering.
Wow.
With an emphasis on life support stuff. And the long-term answer was I went to go submit that paper, and I was like, oh, by the way, I have a PhD and I'm a commander. So we can play this game where you call me doctor or commander or Mr. or Joe. I don't care, but now you can't say that I can't play at the table. So there you go. Nanny,
isn't that a stupid system though? Like, I've been toying with the idea of going back and doing a PhD myself, because I don't have I'm not like you. I don't have as many achievements as you, but I've got a background in doing crazy ass shit and running. And
oh no, I read. You're actually pretty cool. I was like, damn, that looked like it hurt.
there's quite a lot of hurt. But you have all these experiences, and I get pissed off when I see that really intelligent people, like that lady I was just mentioning before, Jane McClellan, who I just had on my podcast, who saved her own ass from cancer 3 times, and then has spent 20 years so deep in the research that she's really revolutionized the way that doctors all over the world are using her protocols and her systems, right? But she hasn't got a PhD and she hasn't been to medical school. But I tell you, that lady knows her stuff. She doesn't actually need a PhD to tell her that. And we don't need her to go to waste another 5 years going to do that instead of doing what she's doing. So sometimes there's this, because in your story sort of resonated with me. But you went and did it anyway, which is just kudos to you. And you would have learned a heck of a lot more, of course, in that process. But so you wrote this paper, and you
so I wrote the paper on ketosis and the ketogenic diet, and it being prophylactic to central nervous system oxygen toxicity.
Yep.
Apparently, we went right to manual testing, man testing, because I didn't know any better, right? I'm just like, the hell do I know? I'm just, you know. And then once the paper's done, I got some attention from Dom D'Agostino, right?
Wow.
He was like, hey, why don't you come to my lab and you can work in my lab? So I was working with Dom for a little while and we did some junk together, not on a full-time like paid level or anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to mislead you, but he and I wrote a couple of chapters in books together at least. So, you know.
Pretty cool dude too.
Huh?
He's a cool dude, and he did a lot. You did a lot of work together on this oxygen toxicity thing. So what happens? So just for the listeners, so when you're doing deep dives, so say SEALs underwater doing really deep dives, and they've got to be on rebreathers or so that they're not giving away where their location is. Correct me if I'm going off track here, but so they on oxygen, and at those depths with that amount of pressure, you're hyper oxygenating the body and can cause seizures in the brain, which can of course be deadly for divers under the sea. So this was the problem that you were tackling, along with, and that's also for epileptic seizures, a similar sort of a thing.
Same general principle. We think it's the same or similar mechanism of action.
Yep.
So we're you know, it's still, the jury's still out. We still don't know for sure, but it seems to be prophylactic to central nervous system oxygen toxicity. So you're exactly right. One thing I would add is it's not the seizure that kills you, it's the drowning.
Yes,
right?
Of course.
When you seize, you spit the regulator out. When you spit the regulator out, when you're done with the seizure, it ends, and you take that first breath in and you don't have a regulator in your mouth, you're dead.
Yeah.
Right? Because you just drown. So, yeah.
And this happens very quickly, in a hyperbaric environment. It can happen within 10, 15 minutes.
High partial pressures, like if you lock out of a submarine. Now, remember, I was helping build dry combat submersible where we were going to try and thwart some of these things. But if you lock out at 60 feet, you're at 2.81 PO2. That's high partial pressure of oxygen to be in the water on a LAR-5 or swimming around with 100% oxygen. Yeah, it's really good to not have any bubbles, but it's really bad to have a seizure.
Yeah. So this is a problem. So, and a lot of the divers, of course, are not going to tell you if they're having problems in this area, are they? Because you know, because so
as a matter of fact, that's what my PhD was on, was a early warning detection system for when the autonomic nervous system is stressed, such as in oxidative stress or in hypercapnic stress or in decompressive stress.
Wow.
So I found that if you draw out the autonomic nervous system and the heart rate variability a certain way on a plot that we designed and patented, that you could definitely show changes in the autonomic nervous system prior to the physical symptom of either central nervous system oxygen toxicity, pulmonary oxygen toxicity, hypercapnia, or decompressive stress. So it's like, this is a pretty damn good thing, right? So like, this is an early warning detection. And what we did was we wound up putting a vibrating alarm inside this thing that is this heart rate variability. So it's just basically a cell phone vibrator. It goes zzz, zzz, and whatever I'm doing in the middle of it, you can't ignore it, right? You can't ignore a cell phone that's on your chest, right?
No.
You have to wake up, right? So whatever you're doing, you stop and you look at your display and you go, okay, what the hell's going on? Am I hypercapnic? Am I hyperoxic? Am I hypoxic? Am I whatever?
And you'll get in there, and so the divers can get that information in real time and then take the necessary steps to prohibit.
In real time.
Wow.
In real time. Yep.
That's insane.
And interestingly enough, we also redesigned the current spacesuit because it's all the same, right? Remember, astronautical engineering degree, right?
Right. Yeah.
So we redesigned the current spacesuit into a simple board that is about this big. It's about I don't know, maybe a couple of centimeters across. And we were able to put everything on that one board, including O2 controller, including the heart rate variability monitor, all the processing equipment. It was time for an upgrade anyway. And then we wrote a chapter in a book, myself and another cat. It's just like, look, man, we're just see need, fill a need, right? We're fixing problems, right? Oh, people have Elon Musk was going to go to space, and he's like, oh, we're going to Mars. I'm like, okay, you know how far away Mars is? Come on. We're not going to Oklahoma, right? So it's like we're going to need a bigger boat, as they say in Jaws, right? We're going to need a bigger boat. We're going to need a better way of getting there, a better spacesuit to get us there, and something that is electronically controlled, that self monitors, that da 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 da. So I went ahead and helped design that thing for him. And yeah.
Wow, really? That's just insane. So now they theoretically can get to Mars with a special spacesuit.
Yeah, we can get there and maybe back in 12 months after that. But it's still, it's like a 3-year trip. It's like a 2.5-year trip, to get this planets to line up. But it is what it is.
It's a crazy mission.
One-way trip, and everybody's going to die out there anyway, But
yeah, it's a pretty well. You can't say he hasn't got big vision, that's for sure.
Right,
I don't
right.
know. I don't know why,
he's got vision, and the rest of the world is wearing bifocals. But he's God bless him. But myopia is a good trait to have when you're limited to an 80 or 90-year lifespan. Myopia is a pretty good characteristic right now.
Yep. Being obsessive is a good thing to be if you want to. I mean, and right. just on all that toxicity stuff, because having mum been put in initially in a hyperbaric chamber with her rehabilitation, we had to watch, not with the mild ones, they're all right because they're only on an oxygen concentrator, but every 20 minutes in the other chamber where we had to take her off oxygen, because that's what could have happened. She could have seized if we didn't take her off, and we would have oxygen toxicity. Is that right?
That would probably be right. Central nervous system oxygen toxicity associated with that. So yeah.
Well, that's what they did, and so you got to work with Dom. Dom's coming on the show next week, which I'm super excited about.
Well, mind you, Dom is a whole lot cooler than I am, so I really hope that you get a good interview with Dom. He's He's got his stuff in one sock. He's a smart PhD. I'm a very passionate PhD. He's very smart.
I think you've been a bit humble there, Joe. I think you're a pretty amazing dude. Both of you amazing people. And the work that Dom's been doing in the cancer, I'm really, super excited given my situation with my mum at the moment to find out more about these ketones and hyperbaric and the whole shit, schmozzle there, because that's really exciting research. Were you part of the experiments that he did within the hyperbaric chambers where he had those, I don't know, special cameras or something, and special microscopes that could tell what was going on in the brains of the rats or the mice?
I was at the lab at that time, but I was not part of that experiment. That is cool.
That is amazing.
Cool stuff, right? It's like that guy. He's freaking cool. And, so it's really good stuff. And it's cutting edge research, but he came up and he was like, hey, how did you get to man testing? And I was like, I don't know, I just did it. And he's like, we started on rats. And I'm like, okay.
You went straight to man testing.
I went straight to man testing because I didn't know any better. I'm just, like I said, not that smart. I plod along at a good pace and I will slow and steady win the race, right? So
crazy. So Joe, tell us a little bit, like, what is it like to be diving at these extreme, like in doing, like, you're an extreme athlete. You have to be an extreme athlete as well. Like what's it actually like to be in these scary environments that you're working in?
So you realize that you're at 810 pounds per square inch, right? So if there was a leak in your suit at 810 pounds per square inch, it would literally cut you in half and fuse you. You wouldn't even bleed, right? So we went through all these thought processes, and I'm like, I wonder if you could survive. I wonder if. And then it's like, it doesn't really matter. It's not something that you want to survive anyway. So it's one of these, like, if it started to implode, I would rather it just implode and take me all with it and not even mess around, Yeah. So what's it like? Resolute that you will die if something goes sideways, which makes you really, really, really anal compulsive on the top side. Yeah. And you get to double check everything, triple check everything, make sure this works, make sure that works. So I was in charge of that detachment. I was in charge of those guys. And like, I remember this distinctly. The guy who I relieved said, look, I want you to look in this mirror. And I looked in the mirror and he says, every morning I look in that mirror and I think, is today the day that I'm going to kill somebody? And I'm like, wait, what? Yeah. He's like, yeah, responsibility on you. Got broad shoulders. You want to do it? Let's do it. God damn, And then you realize everything that happens on this ship is my responsibility. Even if your doctor decides to jump off the third floor of the bridge wing and into the water when you just said swim call, and everybody was just going to jump off the side of the ship, climbs up to the third level and jumps off. Nothing happened, thank God, but you never know. Somebody could get hurt.
And it's all your responsibility. So how did you like come to terms with, I often think of even, I was watching brain surgery last night for, I don't know why, but my mum just had brain surgery. So I sort of was like morbidly curious as to what they do in there, right?
You are, yeah.
I'm weird. I know I'm weird. But how the hell do you cut into someone's brain? Like when you're standing there with the saw ready to go, right. Like, and I talked to the neurosurgeon who was doing it. He said, I said, how do you do that 3 or 4 times a day, by the way? And he was like, I love it. I just love doing it. And I'm like, how that responsibility. I mean, I can't handle the responsibility that I got. I just want to be a kid again, let alone doing something like that. How did you sort of come to terms with that?
So two things. You develop the most robust training plan that you can possibly do, and you surround yourself with really, really, really smart people to help you execute that training program. I told my master chief, my training master chief, I said, we dove our last unfaulted dive yesterday. I said, every single dive will have a training, every single one. And he was like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, every one. We will train like we fight like we train. So this way, by the time it's all said and done, we are firehouse ready to get out the back door. And we have done everything that we ever wanted to do. We did it in the training pool before we ever tried to execute it anywhere else, right?
Wow.
So it made us think up things and think up ways to do things. And, look, man, it's ship salvage is, a bunch of loosely coupled together people that are working on vague assumptions with people of questionable mentality, right? So here we are. We like doing this stuff, and you're trying to salvage this ship or do something or recover this thing off the bottom of the ocean. And you got currents, you got animals, you got, flaws in your machinery. There's enough problems that can kill you, and the ocean will happily and gleefully kill you without blinking an eye.
Yeah.
It won't even recognize that you're there. Yeah. Right. So, you actually have to give it a good dose of respect. And, like I said, training. But yeah, we did great things. So
one of the things I read on, did you do dives on the Titanic? Tell me about that.
The Britannic.
The Britannic. Oh, sorry, I read the wrong.
The sister ship of the Titanic, which sunk in 410 feet of water off the coast of Greece. So we did a scientific expedition to find out why she sank, because you remember the Titanic sank because the bulkheads didn't go all the way up to the ceiling and the water toppled over. Well, they fixed that on the Britannic. So they said, well, why the hell did this thing sink? Turns out that they had the engine room to fire room doors all open. So the hole underneath had the doors all open in the engine room while steaming in wartime in a minefield.
Oh, very intelligent. Obviously, you went at the head of that ship.
Well, I was not the head of that ship. That guy should have been fired, but
he's long dead, no doubt. And you've also done like that Black Coral dive. Give me a bit of background on that one.
Black coral dives were great. Ran into a bunch of people that we harvested black coral for the coral industry, and we harvested it the right way through permits and so forth and so on. But that's the most dangerous diving I've ever done in my life. Like I tell you, when you swing a hammer underwater, it is the most energetic thing you'll ever do. Wow. And I can tell you this for sure, that sharks are very attracted to this.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you're banging underwater? What's that? Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? You gonna eat that? What's that? That looks good. So sharks will come up and find what's going on. And then,
Wow.
So, and when you're swinging that hammer underwater, I've never worked so hard. I've done everything underwater. I've never worked so hard as swinging a hammer and an axe underwater.
At that level, at that depth.
400 feet trying to pull up a tree of black coral. And, the guys that have done this have died doing the exact same tree that you're on. You can see because it's partially hacked. You can just see it. You know that a cat died on this, it's like, okay.
So you're serious, super serious. What do they do with it? Like, what was the
black coral is made into it's a very shiny black. It's a very shiny black tree-looking structure. I had one here at one point.
So is that used in jewelry or something? Like,
yeah, it's used in jewelry, diamonds. So it's really shiny. You can polish it, and it looks like a black opal. If
wow.
You know what that.
Okay, yeah. So I've spent years polishing opals. It's one of my things.
There you go. Exactly it.
I love it. Love it. I didn't do black coral though. But so you're at these extreme. So when you're at, because when you're like, when I do my snorkeling, which is nothing, right? And I only go down a few feet, I'm already feeling that pressure and I'm like keen to get back up. I can't imagine what it feels like when your lungs and everything sort of collapse when you do diving, don't they? Don't they go to really, really small and your whole body is, how does that work?
But remember, your body has these compensatory mechanisms. You are mostly water, right? Mm-hmm. You're mostly water. So that's incompressible. Fluid's incompressible. Your air spaces have compliant volumes in them. So if I take a breath from a regulator and the regulator has more pressure than the surrounding air, it will fill my lungs and my lungs will be filled. So to tell you, if you can clear to 33 feet, you can clear to 1,000 without blinking an eye. The shallow, the deepest recorded depth of a dive is 2,265 feet, I think. God. And that's a long way down, right? But if you can clear to 33 feet, you can clear to 2,000 feet. It's no problem.
So that initial part is where you feel that pressure. It doesn't feel more.
The greatest pressure change. You don't even feel it, right? Because look, how much pressure do you feel on you right now?
Nothing.
You know, because you just did the math with your mom, right? It's 14.7 PSI, but that's the pressure that we're at right now. So it's equal. Why? Because you have equalized with it. So I don't feel any pressure on me, right? When I go down, I don't feel any pressure differential on me. I don't feel any different at all. Like there's little things in my ears that go. You've flown in an airplane.
Yep.
To clear your ear.
Yep. You know. Same sort of deal. And any time you hop in the hyperbaric, if you've got a cold, you're not going to get far because you're
not going to get far at all.
Yeah, because you're going to have start to have real pain. But just the psychology of doing things underwater where you can't just, like I do, done extreme running and I've done stuff at altitude and things like that. You can't get out of your situation. And you can't when you're at altitude either, by the way, but it's not quite as, it's different. Like, you're still going to get your next breath somehow. You might not have enough oxygen when you're at altitude. But when you're under the sea at incredible depths, there's no like losing your shit. You can't lose your shit under there and come back up. Have you been for those long decompression dives where you have to be down there for weeks?
Yeah, so 30 some odd days. And we're looking to break the world record to do 100 days underwater right now. Oh. The world record right now is 73. So generally speaking, the longest dives that we did in the Navy were in the 30-day time frame. But it's not truly underwater. It's in a chamber, right? So you do it in the chamber and then the bell brings you to go to work and then you come back up and then you go back in the chamber and you go to sleep. So it's not like you're living under. But in this case, we will be living 100 days in an aquatic environment and the chamber will be in the water. Oh, wow. So we're looking to break that. That'll be kind of cool.
Wow. And when's this project kicking off?
Well, if not for COVID, we would have done it this year.
So everything's slowed down a little bit. And what is the point of doing these types of things? Does it push the industry further to be able to do more and deeper and harder and...
Right. Well, first of all, we're looking to travel to Mars, right? And it's a couple of month trip to Mars. So we need to be able to stay in a isolated, controlled, extreme environment, an ice environment for a period of time. And we're going to find issues and problems that come with that. Like if you're in a spacecraft and that spacecraft only has like 15 feet of visibility, what's your eyesight right now?
Yeah. Well,
20/20, right?
Yep.
It's 20/20 because you can see an object at 20 feet, because you have that visual depth perception, you can see it at 20 feet. If you're not looking 20 feet, you become progressively more myopic. So when you're in these short tunnel vision things, like in a spacecraft for 6 months, like right? This is us solving problems, right? You got to figure out how you can survive, how you can extend your vision so that when you hit the ground on Mars 6 months later, you can fucking see. You can see past the nose on the end of your face, right? Because you've been looking at your buddy who's 6 feet apart from you for the past 6 months. Right? And learn how to get along and live in that type of environment. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, look, I firmly believe that everything that we need on this planet exists on this planet to survive. The cure for cancer, I believe it's here. The cure for Alzheimer's, I believe it's here. Let me tell you why. Because I worked with a filmmaker named James Cameron when he went to the bottom of the Marianas Trench. He found a new species of lice, sea lice, which are normally this big, but this one was like this big, right? I hope your viewers can see me. I'm holding my hand about a foot away from sorry, about a third of a meter. So, so you get this really big sea lice. And when they brought it up and collected it, they found that it had a synthesized cure for Alzheimer's that we had made up on the surface.
Wow.
So it's like, and it existed in the wild at 35,000 feet. So if you look where you've always looked, you will only find what you've always found. So you can go down underwater, stay down underwater for a long period of time and really start to look around. Right? I mean, really look around. When you're down there for a couple of days, you're really not going to see much. But when you start staying there, like when you've lived in your house for a long period of time, you go, I never knew there was a grocery store in the corner of 4th and Main. Damn.
Yeah.
Going to the Piggly Wiggly down the road, I should have gone to the one on 4th and Main. It's better, right? So you learn, you know what I'm saying? So I think that you can find this stuff. There's all kinds of stuff, including antifreeze type stuff in fishes, because fish don't freeze, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Barnacles stick really well. Maybe we can use it as some kind of a novel agent for sticking our cavity protection in our mouth or something. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? There's cancer.
The answer's here. We just have to look further.
So there's all kinds of good crap. So, but everything is here. And guess what? 70% of the earth is covered in water.
So we haven't even looked.
Right, you haven't even looked.
Yeah.
What? So
I mean, like the story of rapamycin. I don't know if you know what rapamycin is, but it's a drug that's having really powerful anti-aging and fantastic thing. They found it on the Easter Islands one day when they were finding, what was it, a mushroom or some fungi or something that some scientists thought he'd take back and then they realized how powerful this thing is. Now it's saving lives around the world, and it's this sort of crazy sort of pioneering spirit, I think, that, and one of the things like I'm always talking about is we live in this very comfortable environment, right, where we have everything at our fingertips. We have an endless supply of food and light and warmth and everything that we have. And that makes us very complacent because our old ancient DNA wants to be out exploring, adventuring, pushing the limits,
Exactly. No. I totally get it. So like you're talking about that right now. And I'm thinking to myself, this is exactly what I did when I decided to retire. I put together a vision board and this hangs on my wall and you can see right down here, right down here, it says, I want to perform studies to make aquanauts, astronauts, and undersea structures and submersibles safer, right?
Wow.
So it's like, what do you want to do when you grow up? Start with the end in mind, right? Like Deming says, start with the end in mind and then work backwards from there. So, it's exactly it. You got to look where you've always looked. You got to look in a different spot than you've always looked. Otherwise, you'll find the same stuff. So.
And you never give up. Like, it's an attitude of, I don't know how, I like your thing, like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to do this, but I'm just going to keep moving forward. And I didn't know that I couldn't, so I just did, and it's that type of stuff that really, really is super powerful, How
does that saying go? The journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's like, look, if I don't know any better, I don't know that I can't find the answer. So let's just assume that I can find the answer and start running. And then if I'm going in the wrong direction, somebody will go, hey, idiot, make
this
a left.
Way.
Okay. Or better yet, divine intervention will do it, or predetermined whatever.
Yeah, whatever you believe in.
Yeah, we're on this roller coaster ride, right? We're just trying to figure it the hell out. So look, man, I don't know what I'm here for, but I'm trying to have fun and I'm trying to figure stuff out that like it turns me on, right? So like for 28 years, I did stuff that turned my Uncle Sam on.
Yeah.
Right. And now I'm done with that.
Yeah.
So it's like, now I want to do stuff that turns me on. And this kind of stuff turns me on. It's like, woo, hey,
it's exciting, man. And you get to a certain age where you're like, you start to think about what the hell you've done. You know, when I look back at my life and I think, well, I wasted 30 years doing stupid shit. Why wasn't I using my brain for something a little bit more productive, perhaps? But on the other hand, when I look back, I think I learned so much how to handle myself, how to push through barriers. And when it came like to a situation like with mum, I had a mental skill set that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't, in an attitude of, like 2 days ago.
Survival mentality.
Yeah, like I can mentality. I don't know how, but I'm going to keep moving until I work it out. Like 2 days ago,
cultivated that out of necessity. You were made to do that. This is your lot in life. All this was all predetermined. You were because you needed to be there, to be here, to be here, to be here, to be here. And now you're here. And you had to do all this crap.
And waste a shit ton of life. But
you had to waste a ton of time doing stupid stuff before you realized where the important stuff was.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us have that, like 2 days ago, we go to hematology, oncology at the hospital with my mum. And I've been researching, up to here in cancer research because I believe there's an answer out there and I can find a way around. We go in there and they tell us basically she's stuffed. There's no much we can offer you and get your affairs in order. I'm sitting there with my mum thinking, no fucking way, like honestly. And I asked him, I actually quizzed him on a couple of questions on things like ketones and metabolic approach to cancer and things like that. He just rolled his eyes at me and just went, no, that ain't going to help. And I just thought, thanks very much. We'll see you later. I walked out with my mum. I took her into a side room immediately because I was worried about her mental state, just being told that she's dying. And I just said, Ma, I want you to completely ignore what he just said to you. I've got the plan. I know which direction we're going. I don't know how rough it's going to get, Ma, but I've got your back, and we have a plan, and we have a team behind us of people. Right. So I want you to ignore everything. And my mum, who's a freaking legend, just goes, I didn't listen to any of that because I know you'll find a way around this. And I'm like, oh shit, man, like I'm faking it till I make it too. In front of her because I have to be the leader, if you like, the one that says, right, Mum, this is the direction we're going, follow me. And even if I don't have all the answers yet, I'm moving forward and I'm keeping her brain and her mind and her mindset in the right place to come with me. Because if you go and get told that you're going to die in the next 2-3 months,
and you
believe it, you're going to.
And
there's no way that I'm letting that thought into her head.
Right. No, so yeah, I found that to be a very true statement, and I found that if you can, if you can kind of let me just tell you this. So I'm a researcher, right? And there is a 14-year farm to table gap from medical knowledge to present state of the art science research. 14 years. So if you graduate med school today, you know how to treat oncology, how to treat cancer. This is what we do. We give this much chemotherapy. We do this, blah, 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 right? You learn that in school and that's it. You're done. 14 years later, you can get up with the current most research. 14 years from now, you'll get here.
I think 14 is actually conservative. I think it's 20. They're 20 years behind. I
think it's shortening. It's kind of sort of on a Moore's law sort of a thing.
I hope so.
There's like up to date that are bringing it, that are keeping physicians up to the current state of the art. But remember, it's not about the state of the art. And you listeners, take this away. It's about the art of the possible, because the state of the art is yesterday and right now. The art of the possible is way the hell out there. So let's run towards the art of the possible. Do you think we can make it? I have no idea. Well, throwing rocks against the wall, right? We're playing dice, you know? But when somebody goes, you don't have any chance or choice left. Well, I do. And I have dice that I can roll, right? Yeah. So, and I love it because when physicians tell me, oh, you just don't understand. Now I teach physiology in in school, right?
Yeah.
So do me a favor. Let's have a discussion about how the red blood cells work and how the white blood cells work and phagocytes and leukocytes. Go ahead. You go ahead and start, and I will fill you in. And they're like, "Oh, well, you just don't understand." And I'm like, I realize.
Actually, I do. Yeah.
But I want to look. I want to learn. So let's talk.
Yeah, and then, you've got the brain. I mean, you're lucky. Well, not lucky. You've worked hard to have the brain to be able to answer them. And I'm not so sophisticated yet in the way that I bring things across. Well, my knowledge isn't deep enough, and I get things backwards and round sideways sometimes in my explanations. But you can be a quick study, and you can learn. If you have a problem, if you say a medical problem or whatever, and you go and spend a month studying that particular problem all over the internet, all over finding people and interviewing them. Yeah. I tell you what, you're going to be
the right sources, stuff like that. You can't just believe every article you read on the internet.
No. But in a month, you can be an expert on your particular thing.
Yeah, I could offer a different opinion. That's my thing. It's called diversity of thought. I mean, that's my true gift. Thank God I have diversity of thought, right? So it's like, I'm not smart enough to know this way of doing it. I've only ever learned this way, which came right around to the same way that you got, but that's the way I learned it. So that's my thought process, and it works that way. I'm an engineer, so
Yeah. So what's your take on? I mean, this is completely left field question coming at you, but I'm sort of interested. I'll throw one at you. The current COVID situation. What's your take on what the hell is actually going on in our world, which is pretty mucked up? Are you willing to make any comment on that freaking mess?
Yeah, look, I'm a grown man. I have an opinion just like everybody else, but the opinions expressed herein do not necessarily reflect those of any organization with which I may be affiliated.
Well, medical advice.
I think that it's a virus, and we've had these viruses out there, and viruses are going to be viruses, and they're going to kill people. It's like, oh yeah. You have a 98.7% chance of surviving any bout that you have with COVID, and you have like a 99% chance of surviving any flu that you get. It's like,
yeah. So if you have other
comorbidities, you're going to get sick. You're going to have a problem. You have this, you have that, you have this, you have that. Yeah, it's going to be an issue. So, you got to freaking figure it out, So I don't know. To me, it's one of these it's one of these pain in the ass things. Everybody is trying to make what I would call much ado, not about nothing, but they're trying to make much ado because remember, nobody listens to me. I'm a science geek. Nobody listens to me. I'm a science geek. Now everybody wants to hear from me like I'm E.F. Hutton. And all of a sudden I'm the guy that knows everything. Oh, stand back. I'm going to tell you how this happens and that happens. And this happens. And, oh, you got to listen to me. And the last time you didn't listen to me, people died. And then you can, and it's not very helpful. Look, what we need is a common sense approach to doing this stuff, as opposed to a blanket doctoral approach to doing it. And coming from the medical background a little bit, not a lot, but coming from that background, biomedical engineering, certainly, I firmly believe that it needs to be rooted not in politics, not in medicine, but in a combination of politics and medicine and business and acumen, and all these decisions take part. Because even if you save everybody and the economy's dead,
you've just killed a lot. Yeah.
Patient died. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, well, the patient died, so you fuck that up. It's like, all right, can less, I'm not looking to be, if somebody has a loved one that passed away with COVID, I have had friends that have passed away that had COVID that also had, many other comorbidities, and that, had that not killed them, the diabetes would have killed them, or whatever would have killed them, right? So yeah, the present state of where we're at right now is definitely interesting, to say the least, and I will leave it at that. How's that?
Yeah. I just thank you, because I like to talk to people who have critical thinking abilities because it is a very freaking confusing time. And for the average person, I was going to say the average Joe, that doesn't really sound appropriate, does it? The average person, it is like, what the hell do I believe? Half of the scientists are coming out on this side, half of the scientists are coming out on that side. My politicians, I can't trust them as far as I can throw them. Big Pharma, definitely can't trust them. where the hell do we go? Like, where do we go for the right information and to try to make the right decisions for you and your loved ones? And then the divisiveness of this whole thing is just scaring. This is just a bloody,
right. And then people blame people. It's shaming and blaming, but it's fear tactic. That's a fear tactic. Shaming and blaming is fear tactic, right? So like, if you get a shot and I don't get a shot, not that I'm pro shot or against shot, I'm not even mentioning that, but if you get one and I don't, who's at the risk here? Not you, because you already got the shot.
You've been vaccinated. What's your problem?
So why are you blaming me? How can you blame me? Because, well, I'm going to transfer COVID. Do you realize that even with the shot, you can transfer COVID?
It's really interesting logic, isn't it?
So it's not it is not a vaccine. It is a shot. It is a flu shot of sorts. It's a viral shot with a little bit of bacterial component to it, but it's a viral shot, right? That is really trying to help your body to fight and thwart this thing. Now, the novel method that we have for delivering it, honestly, it has been around since the 80s. These mRNA vaccines have been around since the 80s. And, we don't have a cure for AIDS because it wasn't that. We could have had a cure for AIDS, but you notice how you haven't heard a lot about AIDS lately?
No, yes, very interesting.
Yeah. So we could have had that cure for AIDS a long time ago, but it just wasn't enough people that were infected by it. But now what we said was everybody's going to get infected by this. So we get herd immunity and all these. Yeah. So, long story short, everybody's trying to point at China or, Australia or a pangolin or a bat or, whatever. Doesn't matter. Why does it matter? Why does it matter? That's like going, hey, look, the barn door's open. The horses are all gone. But let's figure out why the horses got out, or who let the horses out.
Yeah, which doesn't really matter anymore. Let's get on with the actual problem. Yeah.
Horses are out. Let's freaking go get the horses, for Christ's sake. And then when they come back, we'll tie them up and then we'll figure the hell out.
Yeah. Exactly. I like your thinking. Joe, what are you currently like? Spin away from COVID because, geez, that could be a big, deep hole. What are you doing currently? So you work for the Deep Sea. What's the name of the place that you're at? Deepsea.com or something?
Yeah, Undersea Oxygen Clinic. So I'm working at the Undersea Oxygen Clinic right now, which I own part of, and we're doing a little bit of clinical research, but mostly treatments on a daily basis. So we're treating people with hyperbaric oxygen therapy, from traumatic brain injury to PTSD to all kinds of other stuff. Can
you comment on that then? Because this is like one of my pet things. Like hyperbaric, obviously, I credit that with saving her brain and bringing mum back. Why the hell isn't this available everywhere? Why isn't it not used generally for TBI and for concussions and for strokes and even for cancers and all that sort of stuff? So what is your take on how powerful this therapy is?
So 14-year farm to table gap is one thing that I blame it on. We already discussed that. The other thing that I blame it on is the fact that doctors have something called standard of care, right? So right now we have an established standard of care for a stroke. Now I got to tell you, once you can do things to reset and to reabsorb or to get rid of the clot, after that, I would opine, non-medical opinion here, I would opine that you should take me to the chamber before anything else. Right after I get that absorption stuff for the clot, short of that, bring me right to the chamber. But because it's better and I can get people. But the neurologists right now are going, no, I can't bill that. So I want to bill a 99183 and a G0277 and a TT 77014XX because that's the highest billing rate that I have. First, I got to do an EEG, then a nerve conduction test. Then I got to figure this out. It's like, well, Medicare runs the country, which means it runs the answers. Now, is that right? I personally don't think so. But so where do we go? I think we look to an HMO or something like that because they have a good interest in heart, right? They have, here's $100,000 that we have to do your care for the year. Ready, go. What do you want to spend it on best? Well, the best thing that you can do, and you are a professional athlete, so you get this. Best thing that you can do for your body is work out. Why? because it decreases something called interleukin-6, an inflammatory marker.
cytokines.
It increases something called interleukin-15, which is a powerful antiviral. Why would you shut down
about that for COVID either, by the way?
Why would you shut down a gym mid-COVID when people can get powerful antivirals for free for going to the gym? Oh, because
no one can make money out of that, Joe.
No one can make money out of it. Exactly. No. So you see what I'm saying? You see the issue. So that's why I think the state of affairs is what it is. But like, we're treating post-COVID patients here.
Yep. With long tail COVID.
Paying self-pay here, and they're doing great. The study that I have going has 9 out of 9 people so far have increased breath function. And the only thing that I have, so what do you have post-COVID? Lethargy, nausea, brain fog, headache, and reduced vital capacity. Of those, the only thing that I can measure objectively, because I'm a scientist, right, is pulmonary function tests or reduced vital capacity. So I can show that you went from a forced expiratory volume of 65 to a forced expiratory volume of 93. That's objective quality evidence. That says that you're getting better, right? The rest of it is, I feel better. I can't write up, I feel better in a friggin' paper. You know, unfortunately, I can't say I feel better, but on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel? All right, I can put that in there, but everybody feels better on certain days. So really, you can't fight this. You really can't. So you got to write it up to contemporary professional scientific standard. And that's the one thing that we've been able to do. And every single one of them have gone to mid-60s to mid-90s, and they are very, very pleased with their outcomes. So short of that, is Medicare going to pay with an N of 9? No. Traumatic brain injury and PTSD. You know, here we are pushing this. We are letting guys are able to survive more now from combat wounds than they ever were before. Why? We have better armor, right? Yeah. Guys are living through this stuff. Guys and gals are living through this stuff. And all of a sudden you get this kid back that has scrambled eggs and you're like, what can I do? Well, first of all, what do you got to do? You're talking about breaking synaptic pathways, right? So the synaptic pathways in your head, you're talking about separating them. Do you know how much it takes to separate a synaptic pathway? 1.3 times gravitational acceleration.
Which is not much.
1.3 Gs. Geez, I was here in a car and I jammed on the brakes real. Oh, well, that was 1.5 Gs, right?
Shit,
You know, I don't know how many roller coaster rides I've been on that are 2 or 3 Gs. I don't know how many, you know, rockets are 6 Gs, jet planes are a couple of Gs, you know? So you could break a synaptic pathway anytime, any way, any place. So what you got to do is something called neurogenesis, which regrows those, right? It regrows the pathways, if you will.
Yep.
And that is stemmed by hyperbarics, peer-reviewed, published literature that says it is helped. Hyperbarics helps stem neurogenesis. It also stems angiogenesis, increases cerebral blood flow. All that stuff works. Well, what we did was we did EEGs on people prior to, and what we found is that if the theta-beta ratio is close, theta-beta brain ratio, brainwave ratio is close, then they could do with less hyperbarics, like in the 1.5 PO2. Wow. If the theta-beta ratio is further away, we needed to push them up to 2.0. I mean, and this is completely, we're just very small ends. We're just in the study phase right now, right? Wow. So it's like, but this is the initial stuff that we're learning. How was the traumatic brain injury? How did it occur? How much is it? How bad is it? How close is the theta-beta ratio? Wow. Once you figure that out, you can treat accordingly. It's like, everybody's like, I want to treat it. You know, I know how to treat that. I'm going to use a wrench. What size wrench are you going to use?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to use a 3/4 inch, whatever. Right. Okay. I want to use a box end 3/4 inch, you know, blah, blah, blah. All right. That might work, but that's what I used on the last guy and it worked. Now, this is, we have to do it to each individual traumatic brain injury and how it got there and how people get there. And it's hard.
So that's a lot of studies to be able to do, But this is,
and remember, in order to do a real study, you need 400 or 500 people.
Yeah.
My ends are like
billions of dollars.
Like in order to be scientifically valid, right? So here I am just doing these studies and they're called ex post facto, right? So they're after the fact studies. And it's just, all I'm doing is retroactively reporting things that happen, which could have been anecdotal and people might have gotten better on their own. I don't know. You know, look, I'm trying, but I'm trying my best to help people as best as I can. And, you know, so the answer, go ahead.
I mean, and hyperbaric is being used all around the world. And when you get a case like my mum's, when you see this and this hits you personally, and you see the improvements, and you see her come back from being not much over a vegetative state to being able to drive a car and walk for 4Ks a day and go to the gym 5 days a week and play with the grandchildren, that's personal. This is where everyone, rubbishes the anecdotal evidence. And I understand that we need the scientific evidence, but this is why I wrote the book, because we ain't got all the scientific evidence now, but my odds on, if I've got a brain injury, I know where I'm heading. I knocked myself out the other day doing Tumo breathing, the Wim Hof breathing, and knocked myself out.
You did Wim Hof and you KO'd yourself?
I KO'd myself in the shower, dumb. Don't do that, people. Because I was trying to save time because I was in a hurry. Ended up knocking myself out. Where did I go? Straight to the hyperbaric. And then I had my first aid protocol for TBI, which I have a whole, plethora of supplements and things to give my brain the right fuel. And then I, go keto and things like that. No sugar for the next couple of weeks. And that's where I know to do that. I know to go there. But most people don't. They go told to go home and rest. I had a case because I, do a lot of coaching and health coaching with people. A 3-year-old little girl, massive brain injury after falling off a trampoline, cracked skull. They sent her home 2 hours later. And I'm like, oh my God, and next day her blood sugar level was down at 2.3. She's nearly in a coma. She's vomiting. Parents ring me. I say, get to the hospital immediately. They get up there and I'm saying, obviously her electrolytes are not being produced properly in the head and what do you call it? Diabetes insipidus,
right.
Thinking that's just like connecting the dots. I'm trying to convince the doctor to actually look into this, and they're not interested. And I say, go and get some hyperbaric. They've got a hyperbaric clinic in their town. Not going to do it, and it's just like, oh, geez. Oh, she seems to be coming right. And it's like, she's a 3-year-old with a massive brain injury, and you're playing, in my opinion, like with fire. If you don't go and repair that damage now, then who knows what we'll be looking at in 10 years' time.
Right. If you increase cerebral blood flow, which we know hyperbarics to do, and you increase the amount of oxygen in that area, you're going to help the hypoxic brain tissue. There is no question that's a thing. Now, whether or not you can repair it is still in question, but you can definitely repair all of the hypoxic cells around that one cell.
Penumbra. Yep.
Why? You're paying off oxygen debt. So listen, science wins over bullshit every time, but the bottom line is that, look, I'm a researcher, right? And I want to find out what this plant's problem is, right? I have a plant. Here's the problem. I go, maybe it needs more water or maybe it needs more sunlight, but I'm a researcher. So I want to find out which it needs. So I just fill it with water and then I keep it in the dark. What happens if you fill a plant with water and keep it in the dark? Well, it's going to freaking die. Or you just take it and put it in the direct sunlight for 24/7, 365, it's going to die. So sometimes the research itself is the wrong attitude because it's trying to find out whether it's the sunlight or the water or the plant or the food or the whatever. When the bottom line is, it's everything. So everybody's going, hyperbarics is the cure. And I'm going, no, it's not. It's one thing. It's one thing in your kit, right? So after that, what do? You work out. After that, what do? You eat right. After that, what do? You get a good night's sleep. Talk to Dr. Parsley. After that, what do you
supplements,
right?
Yeah.
So it's my 12 things that I have in my bag of tricks that's going to make me more better.
And that's exactly the approach that I took with Mum, was a multifaceted approach. I said, it wasn't one thing. Hyperbaric was key. Yeah. But it was this plus this plus this plus this, and then you have to. This is I think where being an athlete helps is that when you don't see a result in 2 minutes, people are like, it didn't work, and I'm like, this is biology. It's regrowing, pathways. It's doing.
Give it a minute.
Yeah, like give it a few months. Like just do the work. Well, when I go to the gym and I train, I don't expect to come out looking different than when I went in. Maybe a bit more knackered, but that's it. I don't look different, right? But over the course of 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, my body is going to be biologically younger than the person who didn't go to the gym ever and has got now all sorts of problems. You know, it works, but you don't see it in real time, you know?
No, I feel you. I totally understand you. I totally get it. Now, and you're 100% right. You cannot expect anything to work right away, right? And you know, I just, everybody, and here's the other problem. Like, people will do everything and then do hyperbarics, right? So it's like, and then they go, hyperbarics didn't work. Well, yeah, because you waited till the very end to try it, right? If you had done it, it might have helped earlier. Now, would it have done everything? I have no idea. But if you do this plus this plus this plus this plus this, you're never going to find out which thing actually helped the most. But you're gonna win the day. And in the end, it's all about winning the day. Yep. And this is why, like, you started on degrees, right? I'll be honest with you. It doesn't make a fat baby's butt what degree you have, what title you put before your name, what title you put after your name. I'm here to tell you, it doesn't make a damn bit of difference. If you are a person that can think outside the box, I'd much rather have you in my corner. My lady is probably smarter than most people, and present company included. And she has 0 degree, and she's an immigrant, and she's just absolutely brilliant. But why? She has diversity of thought. Yeah. Right? Because she will run around the back door and go, wait. Here's the way it comes in. And I go, huh, F, did you get there? I don't. Right.
You're thinking outside, and you have to, especially when you're dealing with, like, now we're dealing with a cancer journey. I'm not attacking cancer with just one thing, you know, radiation or chemo or diet. It is a multifaceted and moving target, especially with cancer, because it changes the way it feeds itself.
Right?
Yeah,
because cancer has compensatory mechanisms too.
Exactly.
Woo-hoo!
Yeah. A hell of a lot. So you're blocking, and I'm still learning how to block this and change that and work out and trying to get doctors to actually cooperate with you, which I have. I've got some brilliant doctors that are helping me work this all out. And we are really like just chucking mud at the wall right now. I'm probably chucking a bit too much mud at the wall, you know, like the amount of stuff she's doing and on. But we will refine that as we work through this process, you know.
Well, there is some legislation that came out in the midst of AIDS that allowed for somebody who has a terminal diagnosis, i.e. cancer, to be able to get to their own sort of a cure, if you will, as opposed to having to do those conventions. It's in the United States, right? Yeah. So that was a landmark court ruling.
That's awesome.
If you Dallas Buyers Club, at the very end of Dallas Buyers Club, you can see that homage. It's really good stuff, because why? If you are supposedly at end of life and have been given a terminal diagnosis, and I'm going to die if I do things the way you want to do it,
then I better do something.
Why do you care whether or not I take cucamongophobia plus green tea plus this vanilla art extract and this stuff, and I rub it on my genitals? Yeah. Why do you care?
Yeah. My point exactly.
Off your insurance in just a little bit. Don't worry.
This is, I mean, Joe, I had a situation, and we will wrap up in a minute, but I had a situation with my dad last year, who unfortunately passed away in July last year, but he had an aortic aneurysm, which is, you know, the main aorta in the stomach, for those who don't know, blew out basically, and he was bleeding to death. They managed to save him with this incredible surgeon team that saved him after a 6-hour operation, etc., 28 units of blood, blah, blah, blah. My dad, 81 years old, extremely fit. He somehow pulled through all that. But then he developed, a miracle just to pull through that. But then he developed sepsis, right? And I was very up on the research around intravenous vitamin C and sepsis. So here's me, like, fighting in the hospital, in the ICU for intravenous vitamin C. He's dying. They have nothing more to chuck at this thing. They've done all their antibiotics. Nothing's working. Nothing's touching the sides. They would not let me do intravenous vitamin C. I came with the clinical data. I came with the research. They said to me, I don't care about the clinical research. It's a legal matter. And we're not legally protected, and therefore we're not going to allow it. I fought the ethics committee. Ethics is the unethical committee, in my opinion. But anyway, I fought them, the hospital boards, ICU, the whole staff. I had to get every staff member on board. I had to fight to keep them on life support for the period of time that I was trying to get this through, it took me 15 days to win that battle. And of course, 15 days was sepsis. Dad was at death's doorstep, multiple organ failure, could die any minute. And then they let me do the intravenous vitamin C. And the very first one, I only got 15 grams, and my amazing GPs were able to come into the hospital. That was the only legal loophole we could find. And these incredible, my GPs are just amazing. And they did this. They came in, they did it. The very first one dropped his C-reactive protein in half, like just dropped it massively, which is a huge indicator of how up shit creek you are. His white blood cell count improved massively. His kidney function improved, and they got him off noradrenaline. But then I was stopped doing the second one. It took me 18 hours when it's meant to be a 6-hour protocol, right?
Yeah,
every 6 hours is what you need. And my doctors could only come up every 12 hours. So I was already, behind the 8 ball. But they stopped me every day for the next couple of days until we were too far gone. And my dad died with me. I had an intravenous going into his arm when they forced me to take him off life support, and I lost the battle for my dad. And this type of shit is what makes me an activist now. I don't want to be standing up and having to shout and scream. I'm not a politician. I'm not that person, but I am not happy with the state of affairs. If you've got someone who's dying and you have no other options, why can't I do whatever? I had power of attorney. I had his agreeance to it. Why the hell not?
100%. And that's where that law comes in. And you need to look at it for, I don't know your country, but I don't know if they have it for New Zealand, but it's one of those things. Now, you're 100% right. Like at that point, it's called extreme measures, and I'll do whatever I want, whenever I want. If that means to go down to Mexico and get a bag of Coke and snort a bag of Coke, and that's what I need to do, I'll do it. I will figure it the hell out, right? I at some point, you just don't care, because all of a sudden the laws don't apply. What are you going to do? You're going to keep me in prison the rest of my life?
You're dying
I'm
anyway.
live like 2 weeks, so forget you.
But in the situation I was in, he was intubated in an ICU unit, and I physically couldn't pick my dad up and take him. He would have died instantly. I was literally no options except to fight the bureaucracy.
When you're at end of life like that, you have the critical care pulmonologist people that you have to make sure that they are, it's a tough. And remember, these people see this stuff every day, day in, day out.
Yeah, and they don't care. It's not their dad.
Right. It's not their dad, but they've seen 100 dads go like that, and it sucks. But they're that's their gig, right? That's their job. But to a hammer, everything is a nail, right?
Exactly.
So, I'm a hammer. I'm going to nail it like this, right? So it's like at some point, not everything's a freaking nail. And I don't care if you're the smartest critical care pulmonologist in the world. I love them. I have a wonderful friend who is one. I don't care if you're the smartest one in the world. If you're not looking at it from a different perspective and outside your rose-colored glasses, because everybody has rose-colored glasses on, right? I mean, this is my bias. What's your bias? Right?
Yeah. Same.
Yours is to more science and go more into, peer-reviewed published study papers, and you don't have to have all of them, but, maybe an N of like 50 or 70 would be okay. Whatever. Everybody draws their own line, right? So. Exactly,
Joe. Hey, Joe, I've taken up a huge amount of your time. I just want to say thank you so much for this super interesting conversation that I think is really going to get people thinking and laughing and interesting. I mean, I could have talked to you for hours. I'd love to dive all into the aeronautic stuff and the diving stuff. But you're just a fascinating man with an incredible story. And I thank you so much for being on my show today. Yeah, big heart to you too.
I really appreciate it. And look, if you ever want to call back and talk about something else, we don't even need to be online. Let's just call back and have a chat. I'd love to be able to go, hey, I know this girl in New Zealand, man. We can go out there, drink and party and whatever it is that we're going to do,
Oh man, I'd love that. I'd love you to come over here once this place opens up again and this COVID shit buggers off and we can go back to normal, I hope one day, and actually get to meet
fabulous diving there and great surfing.
We do. I live 2 seconds from the beach. My brothers are really top surfers, and we can take you around the coast. Take you surfing, mate.
Love it. I love it. Know people in foreign countries and do cool things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm down. No, by all means, you know the drill. But yeah, no. So to your listeners, thank you very much. Really appreciate the time. And to you, Lise, you're incredible. I mean, everybody knows your background because they're on your show. But you're as I read your stuff, I was like, damn, I'm a little intimidated. Actually, I'm a lot intimidated, but I'm not going to say it. Right. So it's really cool to have somebody that has been there and done that interview you. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, Joe, that's really kind. Thanks, mate. And we will definitely talk again.